1973, Emmett McGraw had a very serious accident. He was critically injured, and the doctor said he'd really be in a vegetable state for the rest of his life. His brother Steve, his older brother Steve, did not believe it. And through stimulation and a lot of love, today Emmett is sitting right next to me along with his brother, Steve and Emmett McGraw. We welcome you to AM Philadelphia. Good morning. Steve, you have written a book about this experience. It's a novel based on the experience. It's called Total. There is the book. This happened 8 years ago. Can you briefly tell me how the accident happened? You were working at summer?
No, I was down the seashore. I was driving home with a couple friends one night, late one night, in a Volkswagen. And the other way was a drunk come down very fast in an Impala. He crossed the line and just hit me.
It was a very narrow coast road.
There is a shot of the car at the aftermath, completely totaled. Were you alone, Emmett?
No, I had two other friends.
And they were killed?
One was killed, yes, and the other one was hers back, very serious.
He was injured.
Now, when your family was notified, they were told that Emmett had died, correct?
He was pronounced dead on arrival, that's right.
Your family rushed. Where did this all happen?
It happened in Sea Isle City. See what happened in Impala, going about 80 miles an hour, swerved into Emmett's lane without Emmett even being aware of it, maybe 100 yards before. It ran right over the VW. It took them about an hour to get Emmett out of the car. By the time they rushed him to, I think it was Cape May Hospital, he was pronounced dead on arrival. My parents were notified that he was dead. They had to come down to identify his body. By the time they got down there, he had a heartbeat. But they told my mother and father that he had to be taken somewhere where they could deal with someone in his condition, which no one really knew at the time.
What kind of damage did he sustain?
At that point, they couldn't tell. They didn't have the instruments. They took him back to University of Penn, where they did an EEG at the time, which said that his brain was flat. He had massive brain damage, which showed in the brain stem, which is the worst type, and left hemisphere. And
do you remember any of this?
No.
You were strictly comatose.
Strictly, yes.
He was comatose. He doesn't remember anything. Maybe they said he woke up after 2 months, 52 days, but he really didn't wake up. See, one thing the book deals with is the Hollywood coma, where someone's in a coma for 4 days and they wake up, as in Rocky, and they say, "Kill him, Rocky." It doesn't work like that. Emmett was in a coma for he was oblivious, or he wasn't aware of what he was doing or his surroundings for close to a year.
You were 18 at the time this happened, right?
Yes, 18.
And you were 4 years older, Steve.
Right.
Okay, now the whole story of Total is your dedication, your obsession, actually, with bringing Emmett back to the state he is in now.
Right.
Now, the doctors said at that time and for a year afterwards that he would always be mentally retarded. He would always be a cripple.
Well, they started, he'd be a complete vegetable. Half their therapy when we got into the rehab center was it was to the family to say, accept the fact that you have a vegetable. And once you accept that fact, you'll be better off. It never went into Emmett's therapy because they thought he was so hurt. Their attitude in life was that if you fall off a boat 4 miles out and Emmett can only go 2 miles, why even start swimming?
Now we have some videotape here of Emmett's first time, or not first time, but some of his first steps he was walking.
It's important to realize this was taken 10 to 11 months after his accident. We thought he was well at this point. This was after working 15 hours a day for 10 months with him. But you can still see his right arm is still almost totally paralyzed at this point. You can see his fingers the way they curl up. And his right leg is very spastic at this, and his balance, well, the hard part of the whole thing of getting him back was his balance. As you can see, he would fall in a crack of a sidewalk.
Now, you had him in the hospital first and then took him to a rehabilitation center?
Right.
How many months into the accident was that, or after the accident?
Before him?
No, it's been 2 months right here at University of Penn.
Right.
What was the rehabilitation center like? Did they help in any way?
I don't see. They were so negative and down on Emmett at the time.
Yes,
and see, their therapy. We had massive fights with them. They put Emmett in a wheelchair, or he was lying in a bed 23 hours, 55 minutes of the entire day. If it wasn't for me and my family coming over there to help him. And I remember telling the doctors that if I put you, just think about it, if I put you and all you could do was lie down or sit for 23 hours, 55 minutes a day, I gave you 5 minutes to run around, in 2 months you wouldn't be able to walk. So I could see why they were pessimistic. But they had written Emmett off. They said he was too damaged, he would never function again.
Why did they do something like that? I mean, what did you see in Emmett that could bring him back? Why did the doctors give up hope?
The difference is, in their formula, all they can do is operate. And they can't recreate. When you say brain damage, when you say leukemia, when you say cancer, people write you off immediately. And with Emmett, his damage, well, even looking at that photograph, I could almost see, I look back at it and I say, Jesus, why did I work with him? I don't know. You know, it was strange. I felt that he could make it back. There were signs that are in the book with the little brother, the welling of the tears, and he showed to me certain times that he was making that inch every day, and that's what it was.
Let's explain the welling of the tears. What did you do in the hospital to see that first sign that there was something inside Emmett wanting to come out? There was the old Emmett there, but he was just confused.
More than just confused. What happened was he has a younger brother. We have a younger brother named Kevin, who was 4 at the time, and Emmett and Kevin have a special relationship. They were buddies. They golfed together. Emmett wanted to get him a tuxedo when he was 4 years old and take him to his prom. His girlfriend didn't want it, so they didn't happen. But what happened was, when he was in his coma, and actually the little brother, Kevin, stayed at home. And I called. He never came to the hospital, but I called and I told my mother to put him on the phone. Well, when he got on the phone, he was a little bit confused because I pushed the phone up to Emmett. And I said, Emmett cannot speak because he has a lot of instruments in him and all this. So just tell him what you did today in school. And he started to blur on about, you know, Emmett, where are you? We're going to play golf and all this business. And Emmett welled. His eyes welled. And I thought this was, you know, now it wasn't Emmett trapped inside. You have to remember, Emmett was totally confused. Every brain cell was moved, maybe a millionth of an inch. But something in there was stimulated. The doctor said it's not uncommon for a coma victim's eyes to water. That's how they just wrote it off. But I thought something was stimulated, and that turned into our whole medicine, our whole therapy was to stimulate Emmett. I took him out to ball games, to bowling alleys. When he was in a wheelchair, just pushed him out to University of Penn to watch college students play Frisbee, throw the football. And his eyes were seeing, it was just constant stimulation.
Were you aware of all this, Emmett, that he was taking you to the bowling alley, to a football game?
Well, not really. You could drag me anywhere.
But you were aware you were going out to these events, you were hearing sounds and seeing sights?
Yes, exactly.
Now, the doctor said he would be blind, right?
Yeah, he was blind for 3 months.
I was blind for a while, and then now I'm 20/25, 20/35.
What else have you sustained from the accident?
Oh, as you can tell, my speech. And I'm paralyzed.
Still on the right side, a little stiff?
Not really paralyzed. I don't think of it as paralyzed. I think it's impaired injury.
How about your thought processes, your memory?
My memory is bad. Like I remember one thing one day, and I forget the next, and I remember 2 days later. And say, why didn't I remember that?
What are you doing now? Are you working?
Yes, I work. I live in Fort Lauderdale.
You live in Fort Lauderdale?
Yes, and I work down there.
Alone?
Yes, I live alone.
Do you drive again?
Yes, I do.
You do drive?
I do everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's doing well.
You know, you were not a therapist at
No,
all.
I majored in math and computers.
And how did you take it upon yourself to think that you could do this when the doctors who are trained in this said no? I mean, it's not possible. Was it just a matter of faith in God and love?
Well, there's this expression, pray to God but keep rowing to shore. And that's, because we prayed a lot too. Definitely there's a lot of prayers. And why Emmett made it back, and I know some people in the hospital, I could go back there today and they'd still be lying there. So Emmett is a special case. But I think what it does prove, what I did was very simple. It was just massive stimulation. I read books on therapy and things like that, but there was no real tricks to it. When we took him home, we put him right in the living room where 1,000 people would be. It was Grand Central Station, Little Brothers. It was stimulation and love and the power of prayer, I guess you'd have to say that. All the combination. And he's a tough kid. He's
stubborn, huh?
He's a real tough kid.
The thing is, what physical therapists are missing and all that is the way I came back is really by the blood. And they
stimulating the blood.
They stimulate the muscles. But the blood is the whole source of the whole body. I don't have enough time to explain it, but if I did,
we wouldn't understand it anyway.
Well,
I could really get into it.
If you want to really understand what this whole relationship was about, the book is called Total. It is written in conjunction with another person, but Steve McGraw here wrote it, and it is really it is a novel based on this true life story. Steve said that he has changed it because of litigation to protect the innocent or whatever. But it's a fascinating book.
Steve,
Emmett, thank you very much
for
being
very
here
much,
on AM
Janet.
Philadelphia.
Thank you.
Fascinating story, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more AM Philadelphia.